thank you, Ricky, Ines, Will, everyone for organizing this and allowing Tim and me to be part of this. This is super special, and we're just super excited to present this. So before we get started, Tim and we just wanted to introduce ourselves a little bit, tell you all who we are. So I'm Richa Prajapati. I'm currently the researcher on Salesforce, helping shape the analytics products that we have for the past 4 years. And it's really it's really interesting because I was also, in my past job, I was an analyst with one of the consulting firms doing data integration projects. So it's been a pretty good journey so far, being on the other side from implementing solutions to implementing products that help you guys build these solutions. Tim.
Fantastic. Thank you, Richa. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good day, good morning. Great to see such a global turnout to this data tribe. My name is Tim Bezold. I'm a product manager on the Einstein Analytics data platform, and I'm joining you from the San Francisco Bay Area. I live here, in fact, in the East Bay, and with 2 daughters who may be storming in at any point of this, so apologizing ahead of time if that happens. I am really excited to be showing to you today the next generation of our data platform and the data transformation tooling, the next generation of data prep. It's been a long journey for me. So with Salesforce, I've been for about 5 years. And before then, I was in a big data analytics startup. And also before then in the data integration space with IBM. And so I've seen a couple of products that I've worked with customers on to implement in the data integration space. And this is my first product that I'm releasing kind of beginning to end as a product manager. I've been in this role for about 3 years, working with Richa on this. So it's been a fantastic journey. I'm really excited to share it with you today.
Yes.
So if you look at the agenda for today, Vicky already kind of showed a quick agenda slide. We're going to take a look back at what we accomplished in the last year and also kind of give you a preview of what's coming in the future of what you can expect from the summer release. There's some exciting changes coming out that you will be able to try out, get your hands on, and then even look further in the future on the plan for the data platform. Before we jump in, I wanted to remind you that we will be talking about future about to be released products, but also roadmap items. We just wanted to remind you that to make your purchasing decisions based on the software that's available today, and just keep that in mind as we're discussing roadmap. Things can change. And then kind of a look back, for Ricky, you called this the new data platform, which is really true. We've been surfacing a new user experience with the next generation of data prep that we're going to show today. But really, this is a much larger conversation and something that we've been working on for years. So the new data platform is a classic win-win situation for me, because on one hand, we have signed up a tremendous amount of new customers every year. We've seen exponential growth of our data platform from not just more customers, but also higher use from each and every customer. So we're pretty much in some metrics, we're growing triple digits year over year. So it is from our product and engineering side, it is quite a challenge to make sure that you still get the same level of service and the same user experience as we're seeing this explosive growth on our data platform. So it was clear that we needed to kind of slide a new platform underneath our products to make sure that we can handle the scale that we're seeing from all the great work that you are doing. And the other perspective is, from a customer perspective, in the conversations we have with you and with our customers, we realize that customers want faster flows. You know, sometimes a data flow that's running for 12 hours is not acceptable. And we need to find a way to just process more data in less time for each customer. Also, we've seen the emergence of AI and machine learning technology and how it can help in the data prep context as well. And as a cloud-native platform, we are uniquely positioned to take advantage of these ML features and to provide machine learning at scale for your data. And there's some specific features that we're going to cover as well. For example, predicting missing values or detecting sentiment of your data, or also as we're going into the future roadmap, clustering analysis of these machine learning. So there's a really broader discussion. Today we'll see the visible part of data prep. But again, this wonderful win-win where we can, with this new data platform that data prep runs on, we can see a faster rollout of features, quicker innovation, really cool features for you, provide a lot of capacity for you as well, and at the same time, make the scale for us work as well. And some of this capacity is also reflected in the shorter intervals that we're offering. So if you look at the 15-minute scheduling intervals as well. So Richa, if you go to the next slide, we have a breakdown of the capacity that's available by the different products. So we have the Einstein Analytics Growth licenses and Einstein Analytics Plus. Plus comes with the Einstein Discovery AI product that allows you to perform predictions on your data, but it also comes with increased capacity on the data platform side. So each customer, as soon as you have Einstein Analytics Plus licenses in your org-wide limit is going to be 10 billion rows for the entire org. And each data set can have up to 2 billion rows. So we've done some great innovation there as well, being able to scale in terms of the data volumes as well, and also the data volume per data set, and making kind of still having fast queries on 10 million rows. The number of data flows that you can run are automatic concurrency of 2 with Einstein Analytics Plus, and the scheduling increment. So the 15-minute scheduling is actually new as of the summer release. So with the summer release rollout, if you have Einstein Analytics Plus licenses, you will automatically see the 15-minute interval for data sync and data flows and data prep. All right. And then we will occasionally pause for questions. Richa, do you wanna be the person that scans the questions and interrupts me?
There's actually just a few questions that came in. Zach is asking with whether connectors will have an increase in the amount of rows that can be pushed into Einstein Analytics.
Yeah, so we have the Einstein, the built-in connectors are, again, available for both license types. And we're looking at each and every connector, and we're trying to increase the data volumes. And there's different connectors have different limits, and oftentimes it is due to the source system on how much scale they can provide. And sometimes, you know, it's also the connector specifically as well. So we're working with the connector vendors to improve the performance and the characteristics of each connector. So we do increase, every release, we're focusing in on a couple of connectors that we see being highly adopted by our customers. For example, Google BigQuery, Redshift, and S3, and the database connectors, also the Microsoft Azure connectors. And we're increasing them to the high volume tier, which is 100 million rows. But this is really more on a individual connect. There's no blanket ranking increases because it's really, depending on each and every connector. And I would suggest monitoring the release notes for these changes.
Thanks. Hopefully that was enough information, Zach. The next question we have is, we would recommend Einstein Analytics as a kind of data lake now when we have 10 billion rows?
I think that, yeah, I think the data lake word is a big one, but I've definitely seen customers taking advantage of, for example, our multi-org app that we have out there, quickly accomplishing a single view of all of their Salesforce data in analytics and sharing that in a governed way back out to their users. And I think there's definitely an overlap in some of the use cases that you would traditionally implement the data lake for, and what you can accomplish very easily and frankly, I think also cost effectively with Einstein Analytics, because everything is built in, right? It comes with connectors, with the storage and the powerful query engine. So you get the whole stack, but I wouldn't equate this, I wouldn't equate it as a one-to-one fit. I think, but there's certainly, a number of use cases that you can easily accomplish with that. And maybe that's a good topic for yet another Datatribe session, Richa. We should pick that up.
Okay,
in the future.
Let's note that down. There's also a question here if the limit of number of data flows you can run, if that will increase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially with the 15 minutes, right? So with for the 15 minutes, so currently the number of data flows you can run on a 24-hour basis is 60 out of the box, and we are looking to increase that over time. We're definitely working on that every single release. Currently, with the summer release, it will still sit at 60, but especially with the stop hourly scheduling coming in, you may hit the ceiling there fairly quick. We have done some occasional exceptions for some customers where on this specific limit, where we've granted an increase manually, and that works through a case via Salesforce, and then that is pending performance approval, and then we've done increases, on a one-off basis. And for this, we've also, for the scheduling aspect, we also have window scheduling. So you can, if you have a use case where your users in Europe or your users in North America need fresh data during their work hours, you can have like a start time and an end time, and kind of conserve your runs that way, so you don't burn through that limit too quickly.
Great.
All right.
And there's another question here around if it's possible to play or test with the new data prep functionality before the summer release.
Well, it's really hot off the press, honestly, and the summer release is a big bang. We do have some code available in the spring release, but really it's more of a demo. So what you're seeing today is the demo of the summer release. It will hit sandboxes real soon at the end of May. So I would recommend, unfortunately, you may have to wait until the sandbox release is out at the end of May to really get a benefit from this new editor. But I have a slide for that as well. So at this point, Richa, would you mind moving ahead? So yes, just a quick recap before we jump into forward-looking things. Talking about the new data platform, it's given us more functionality like joins and aggregations. These are features that you currently have in data flows, and also some of the machine learning functions. But then recipes, the user experience is very simplistic, which is great for new users, and it's it has its definitely its advantages with the live preview that you're getting. But Richa is also going to talk a little bit more about some of the challenges that probably will resonate with you, with your specific experiences. So that was one of the reasons why we sat down and kind of started from the drawing board again, and with a lot of conversations that we had. And I think that's a journey that Richa is going to share with us. Richa, you want to take over?
Sure, thank you, Tim. So let's switch gears a little bit, and we do have the demo, but we want to spend a little time understanding like why we decided to create a net new data platform and why have we made the decisions that we did, and kind of share the story that we had. So I want to start off by sharing with you all a story of an analyst who uses Einstein Analytics. And this is a story that was based out of the research we did by talking to many of you over the last 1.5 to 2 years. So thank you so much for your support over there. So let's talk about Nikki. Nikki, she's an analyst. She supports her sales department with keeping them up and running, making sure they're meeting their quotas, and helping them from a data and analytics perspective. And she, as such, she's pretty good at Excel, Salesforce reports and dashboards, Tableau, and other analytics tools that are out there. Simply put, she is pretty proficient at her job, pretty kick-ass. And one day, her department decided that, hey, let's purchase Einstein Analytics because we feel it would be suited for our needs. It will help us get analytics to our sales users where our sales users live. And they decided that Nikki should be the person who builds and manages Einstein Analytics, because why not? Like, she has done this before multiple times, and she can definitely do it again. And as you all know, one of the first steps to using any analytics tool is to get the data in and prepare it a little bit. And right off the bat, with Einstein Analytics, Nikki had to make a decision, like, should she use recipes or should she use data flows? And for those of you who aren't aware, who aren't that familiar with Einstein Analytics, basically recipes and flows are two data prep tools that Einstein Analytics currently offers. And to make that decision, she decides to do her due diligence. She goes to Trailhead, she joins the success community, she reads blogs, she even asks her customer success manager, like, hey, which tool should I use? Which tool is the best for my needs? And she gets kind of a mixed response. And finally, she decides that, okay, let me start with recipes because it will help me get started quickly. But pretty soon, she realizes that she runs into problems with recipes. She realizes that it is missing some really core data prep functionalities, and also it's really very quickly draining her data limits, the data limits we all just discussed briefly on. And so she decides to bite the bullet and start with data flows. She transfers all her work from recipes to data flows. And guess what? Data flows are hard. There is a bit of, they are pretty robust and complex and pretty powerful, but there is a pretty steep learning curve into using them. And Nikki has to spend quite a few hours learning how to use data flows. And if she's not successful, then she signs up for webinars that Ricky and her team organizes. And even if she's not able to do that, she has to then hire a consultant and ask for budget and a lot of things. And it And if we take a step back and go through the journey from step 1 to step 7, we see that 3 to 6 months have passed while Nikki's just trying to get the data in and prepare so that she can create those awesome dashboards. And we just want to say that this is not a story. This is not just Nikki's story. This is something we heard time and again from a lot of our users, from you all in our research. And I wanted to use this time to just kind of take a very quick poll, if you guys will, to just tell us how many of you were able to relate to this story. So I know I tried, basically you can use this quick link, but if you have your phone, you can also scan it. Just open your camera and scan this QR code. And I will share with you, like once we have, it has stopped moving, the poll results. And Ricky, just, I cannot see the screen, but can you give me a rough estimate of how many people are there on the call so that I know?
Now we're 50.
Okay. Cool. So I'll give it a few more seconds. And if you guys can see my screen, this is the results. Seems like a lot of you can relate to this story. And that's really heartening to know, because we had spent quite some time, like 2 years, making sure that this is a big change and, we aren't off the mark. So this is a good confirmation. And in the interest of time, moving on. So now let's switch. We heard about Nikki's story, your story, and this is what I wanted to share with you, what was happening with our team, the data prep team, back in 2018. And we were basically facing a dilemma. We knew we had these issues, but we were wondering how do we make Einstein Analytics and especially the data platform better? Do we invest in data flows or recipes? Do we build capabilities that will help new users, or do we invest in the experienced users, the power users? What kind of capabilities should we build? Should we build richer transforms? Should we provide more connectors? Should we should we do an underlying change in our architecture so that we can, our users can scale and use large data sets? And we all view these are important. These are all super important. But we have limited resources and we have to hit those pre-releases. So what do we prioritize first? And so we decided to kind of go back to the basics, the drawing board, as Tim alluded to before. And we started with just understanding who is our user, specifically who are these analysts who are using Einstein Analytics, and why are we seeing these different patterns? And we realized that there are lots of things, but there are three key differences or three different kind of analysts. They are the Salesforce expert, BI expert, and ETL expert, as we decided to call them, just for simple name purposes. And these were users, and the thing that separated the three of them was which analytics tool did they use before coming in and using Einstein Analytics. So for example, a Salesforce expert was someone whose main analytics tool before Einstein Analytics was Salesforce reports and dashboards. A BI expert was someone who was using maybe Tableau or Power BI. An ETL expert was someone who was with the traditional ETL tools like long back Informatica talent and so on, and they were comfortable. They were somewhat comfortable with programmatic skills and knew the lay of land. But everyone had a different perspective, and the reason why this experience was so important is because these prior experiences shaped users' mental models. When one came in and saw Einstein Analytics, and they expected because of these different mental models, they had different needs and expectations when they came in and they needed different things to learn data preparation and to find data preparation more approachable and become successful. And we realized that the Dataflow platform at that point, like the current one, the one that has recipes and data flows, none of them were aligning with these users' mental models, any of the three user mental models. And that is the reason why it was taking people, irrespective of where they came from, almost 3 to 6 months to become successful with preparing data to feel confident and use the Einstein Analytics dashboards and get support businesses. And so, whoops, what happened? And so we were like, okay, what if we could at least half this time, or reduce this time to 1/3? What if it took Nikki 1 to 2 months to become successful? What can we do to make the data platform align with users' mental models, these three different mental models? And so we conducted basically 8 studies, really huge studies, across 8 months. We spoke to more than 100 users. And I feel like we've not updated this, but there have been way more studies over the past 12 months. And as you can see, the bottom half of this slide kind of shows you what artifacts we made that came out of this study. Right from the left, we tried on this, that captures, okay, what are the common ways across these mental models in how people approach the data platform? And kind of from there, how should we prioritize them? And all the way to the right, it kind of shows the different hypotheses we used to flesh out this data platform. And towards the end, we kind of realized, okay, there are basically four needs that cuts across all the three different mental models that people need to be successful in onboarding and preparing data and just being champions across. That was ability to easily understand, okay, what is happening in my data flow? How is my data changing as I make these different transformations? Then creating, how can I easily create and edit these by existing data pipelines and data flows? How can I quickly validate so that I don't have to spend hours and hours running the data flows just to check whether the syntax is right? And finally, how can I collaborate with my other team members who are using Einstein Analytics? How can I scale to manage larger and larger data sets? And within all these needs, we identified these different solutions or features that we thought would help meet these needs, and we tested them very rigorously over the past many months to make sure that they truly meet those needs. And we just wanted to thank you all again for us do that. And it's these features that came together to create the new data platform. And now I'm going to hand it over to Tim to show us what the new data platform is about.
Fantastic. Thank you, Richa. Great. Any questions for Richa before we move into the demo on the research side?
I haven't seen questions on the research side. There's only one previously, but we can take that one in the end.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll come back to Q&A in the end. So feel free to type in your questions in the chat, and then Ricky will.
Yeah, but there's a lot of good comments, good feedback, game changer. So people are excited.
Great. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Ricky, and thank you, Richa, as well. I think that was a great intro, and also a way to build up expectations, which I hope we can satisfy. So first of all, let's quick recap on how data flows into the platform. We have our built-in connectors that we covered earlier. We have some more exciting things actually on the Connect tab here with our MuleSoft connections that are now GA. So you can, if you happen to be a MuleSoft and Einstein Analytics customer, you can configure your MuleSoft connections straight from within Einstein Analytics with point and click. And voila, there is a new tab here available. Not just our live connections that aren't enabled in this org that allow you to query data in real time, but also output connectors to S3 and then also Snowflake. So this is, to me personally, really mind-blowing that we, from now on, not only allow you to build data sets, but also to build files in S3 and database tables in Snowflake. So what this is a summer release org, what you will see showing up in your sandboxes soon. And we have the list of recipes here that are a mix of data and regular recipes. So I can go in and continue to create for as long as we're still in beta. I still have access to the old editor for my existing recipes, but I can also go in and create the new data prep experience here with the brand new interface that comes with a graphical layout, smart transformations, and as welcome mat where you can learn about what's changing for this beta. And let me start by adding data in. So I have access to all of my connectors here, all of the external data connections that I've created, or my org's data sets as well. Let me just build the classic demo here with opportunities and accounts. So I have my opportunity object here from Salesforce. I can browse all of the fields that are available on the Salesforce platform. Is my Ricky, the screen resolution is okay? Is it too high?
It's a little small on my screen, so if you can zoom in a little bit, that would be good, I think.
Yeah, zoomed in a little bit. Is that better?
It's better. Hopefully, it's okay for everybody.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, let me know. And here I can pick the fields that I want to pick from my Salesforce object, and that adds an input node to my screen here, and I can see a preview of my data from Salesforce right here in Data Prep. And then I click on this plus button that gives me a set of nodes that I can add to the canvas. And I'm going to start out with a join node by bringing in another data set from Salesforce, specifically the account object. So I can either search for my objects up here on the top right, or I can, if I'm lucky, I'll find them. So here, obviously, I need my account ID probably for the join, the account type, and maybe also the state, for example. Get some geographic information in here, and this lands me into the join modal where I can pick the different join types. I have the left join, right join, inner join, but I just want to look up the account information and put that onto the opportunity records that I already have in my recipe. So we see that we've made the automatic join key suggestion here on account ID. That's just fine. I can go in and also change if I need, or overwrite if I need to, or add more join keys if I need more precision. I can toggle over to the preview tab, which is then going out and fetching a preview. So the cool thing here is I'm operating straight on the Salesforce data centers servers in memory to prepare this flow for me. There's nothing working in my browser here on the client side. So what we have now is the opportunity and accounts flowing together into this join node. And then I can continue to add a transform node. So inside the transform node, we've built an immersive experience, and you can think of it as almost as having a recipe embedded in a data flow. And hopefully you can see the philosophy that we've been applying here by getting the best out of both worlds, by showing you the graph of how the data flows, really intuitive, and also at the same time give the preview experience and the immersive experience of the experience that you have in data prep recipes. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a bucket field where I can add this is my, let's say this is my high bucket, and basically what I think I made a mistake here. Basically what I'm doing here is with this operation is I can go into this measure field. I can pick my operations from the top bar here, and I can also see the preview of how my graph looks like if I'm sliding this down. But this is pretty much, if you've ever used recipes, a very similar experience where I can go in, I can select my field, in this case a date field. I can go extract my quarter from this and add in steps here on the left. So you can see as I'm adding in more fields, as I'm preparing my data, I have my bucketing here. So I have some opportunities with low, medium, and high amounts. I have my quarters now extracted. Currently, these are appended to the right, but you will see those showing up right next to where you're working as well. I can also do more complex things like formulas and combine multiple fields together, or I can just do, find and replace operations or type conversions here. So the transform node is really the Swiss Army knife of what you can do with preparing your data and getting it ready for your dashboarding and discovery needs. And to just give you a quick overview, so the append is vertically bringing in data, not horizontally like the join. It also automatically maps your fields. We can also go in and aggregate our records here if you have the need to do so. So I can go in and just to calculate the sum of amount by a specific group. I think aggregation is really helpful if you have a lot of data, or if you need to do some detailed processing that you want to merge back onto some other flow. Because with the winter release, you will also have the ability to branch your data off and create multiple output data sets. So essentially what you're getting is the data flow functionality and the data preview for this. So even though we're branding this data prep, I believe that the capabilities that you're getting and the experience a little bit from the user side is essentially a blend of data prep and what Dataflow Editor can do. On the output node, we can put this into a data set, or we can also use one of our defined output connections to either stick this into S3 or we can load it into Snowflake, and there's more output connections coming in the future as well. So really, this is, to me, the first time where we can also use the data platform as an independent data processing tool, not just to supply data sets. So this is my Opti account data, and I'm going to let Analytics define the dataset API name, but I can also overwrite this here. I can pick my app and have a dynamic reference to my app security defined on the dataset. We also inherit Salesforce security from the Salesforce org in this case, if you want to. So now that I've finished my flow, I can go ahead and save it. And just make sure that for saving recipes, we'll introduce, we've also learned a lot from research here. You know, obviously that undo redo is something that we want to build for you. That data set versioning is, or the data flow versioning is something, or recipe versioning in this case is something that we want to build. But you can already see the grayed out buttons here. So this is kind of an undo redo thing that we're planning to build soon. And then also these upload, download is for fetching the JSON. So with Dataflow Editor, you may be familiar that it's really just a JSON editor. You have the data flow and you're kind of working off of the JSON that you built for this. Here, it's more of an app-like experience, but you can still get to the underlying definition that you're building for the purpose of moving it to a different org, for example. If you, we are fully packageable. We are ready for the summer release, so you can go ahead and create change sets with the next generation data prep recipes. But you can also just, you will also be at some point be able to just get to the JSON with the winter release and move it manually if you don't want to build a change set. One of the great advantages of having this graph layout is, you know, previously with data prep, there was no way, if you brought in account information, there was no way to prepare this data before you join it in. And now you can just hover over this graph here and create, for example, a filter node in between before you bring the data into the join. And you can do this after the fact you already built your join node. Sometimes it takes a second for the preview to load, but I can already continue working. And for example, if I don't want a specific account name in there, I can filter that data out. I can define multiple filter conditions, and eventually we'll also make this more powerful by providing you the ability to add custom syntax, which, by the way, is again something we're planning for the transform node, you know, with a generic formula node to allow you to really be very flexible in what you can do in this, you know, talking about complex case statements, complex compute expressions, to be tucked here into this formula node. But another thing I wanted to point out is oftentimes data flows were these endless long lines, and the transform node really allows us to collapse a lot of the compute expression and compute relative operations that often took up a lot of space graphically. And notice that these graphs have different shapes and different colors. I can rearrange my graph to meet the, to meet the layout that I want to see for it. And by the way, we're also saving this layout. So if I go ahead and save my flow now, we're retaining this layout for you. So that's another thing that we've learned by talking to our users, you know, that sometimes you spend a lot of time rearranging this to make sense for you. And now we're saving this graphical information alongside with the definition that we're running as well. The winter release will also bring the ability to rename these and also define annotations and descriptions, so you can annotate your code so that somebody else can easily understand what's going on here. For now, we can just take this off and run it. And this has now been submitted to the queue. Before we open this up to Q&A, just one more thing on the data platform comments. You know, if I pull up my data set of Japanese risky reviews and open this up in a transform node, you'll find some freeform text in here that is describing the taste of a specific whiskey. You know, I know in the UK it is beer o'clock, so maybe I'll find you sipping one of those. But essentially, you know, this could also be case comments, and you want to see what sentiment your customers have over time. And this is where our detect sentiment feature comes in to allow you to define a positive, neutral, or negative sentiment that we detect on this freeform text for you to analyze. So that's something that's currently alongside with the Recipe 3.0 and the data prep, next generation data prep platform will go GA in the summer release. So we we'll run this and then we'll show you the sentiment after the run. We're still working on showing this in real time. Great. I want to pause here for questions and see if there are any specifically around the demo.
There is quite a lot of questions, Tim. I mean, everybody's super excited about what they're seeing, been waiting for it. They love the whole layout, all the work that's gone into it. I feel like it's, you know, self-documenting, and you don't have to, you know, necessarily look so much to documentation and trial and error. So a lot of great feedback. Just a few questions, well, quite a lot. So you let me know if you have some other stuff to share, and we can kind of take more questions in the end. But the first one is using the data sync. There's right now a limit of 100 objects. Whether or not this will be increased now when we have more data, is that something that you can give some thoughts on?
Yeah, I can share a little bit of that. That has been also a significant investment on our end to make acquiring data from Salesforce a lot more efficient and faster. So on our quest to provide faster data, we've also significantly overhauled the architecture of data sync behind the scenes and storing this in a different format. So, you know, we're moving to our Parquet format internally there to make that more efficient and easier. And along with that, I'm also expecting an ability to provide more capacity to our users in this part. So currently, the short answer is it's still at 100, although, you know, that can also be negotiated with Salesforce. I've seen some customers getting an increase there, but yeah, we're also looking at a blanket increase of these connected objects, and it often depends on what's driving it. You know, if it's Salesforce data or if it's adoption for our external data connectors, because that is shared among both connectors. So, yeah.
Sorry, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I encourage to reach out to us or to me, and we'll make sure that you're successful with our product. Definitely the commitment out there to you know, either possibly we can increase limits. We can also have a conversation about making things more efficient. So we're having different ideas. So we're definitely, you know, looking forward to working with you on that.
Cool. So the next one I think was already answered because it was around specific features like outer joins, if they would be available in Dataflow. So I think you've already kind of demoed that. And also you I think you just mentioned it where it's about the next one, which is if we get a nice UI, if we can return to that later. So right now, Dataflow, you change it and then it doesn't, or it reverts back to what it was before. I feel like you just showed that as well.
Correct, yeah, so I closed the recipe, I'm opening it back up. And yeah, so I think I've customized my flow here. I guess I didn't save it before I closed it. Yeah, go ahead, Ricky. Sorry.
So the next question was if you can change the node names, Dataflow relationship name. We cannot do that in the recipe currently. And also if we would still have access to the JSON.
Correct, yeah. So changing the node name is something we're currently doing for the winter release. So it's not part of the beta. What we already have in the summer release is the ability to edit the attributes of fields. So I can go in and change either the label or the API name of an attribute here in this rename step. And also on the output node for data sets, we also have that same ability to rename. Sorry, there was a second part of the question that I already forgot.
That was whether or not you had access to JSON.
Oh yeah, so not during the beta, but this is definitely planned for the winter release where you can. So currently you have to use the public API during the beta to fetch the JSON that's behind this definition. But we're also making a link to the public API to fetch the definition available here through this button. So yes, that's possible.
Then there is a question around cloning Dataflow pieces. So you have a set of different nodes and you want to reuse them in another Dataflow, if that's possible or will be possible.
Yeah, Richa, do you remember that conversation? That definitely came up during our research as well.
Yes, it did.
So something that we're working on is not in the winter release. This is possibly spring release territory. Again, all forward-looking statements and covered by Safe Harbor. But basically, you take your mouse and you're going to be able to drag and select multiple nodes and then possibly copy them to the clipboard and then bring them over to another flow as well. So we've definitely heard that requirement more than once, and we're tracking this on our roadmap.
Jennifer is definitely excited right now, so thanks for that answer. Then we have a question around when you save, there is a question why you both have to indicate your data set name and also your recipe name.
Yeah, it's so for the winter release, we will allow you to hover over here. You get a plus bar, and that will not just give you the ability to add nodes, but also to branch out. And once you start branching out, you will have multiple data set names. So this is all designed assuming that we will bring data flows in here. And data flows have multiple outputs. You will be able to define logic to have multiple outputs. So there's definitely going to be a category name for the recipe, and then there's going to be multiple output data sets that each have their individual names.
Hopefully that was enough to clarify that. Then there's a question here. In the recipe, when you want to change your transforms or your transform node or your joins, then it removes all the transformations until you reach the step that you want to change, and you have to redo the whole thing again. So the question is whether or not you can make any changes to any node even after it's been created without having to delete and redo.
Yeah, definitely. So I can. Obviously, this is sometimes not necessarily trivial, but if I go in here and I edit attributes, for example, I'm going to go into, say, this is account name, and now that I've changed this, my downstream nodes will have to work on this new API name for account name. So I have now account name underscore here. Basically, this change has now propagated through my flow without breaking the downstream nodes. But if I would have gone here and I would have dropped my join key, if I go in and say account ID, I'm going to drop this column, then I'm going to basically make a breaking change to my flow. So essentially now the join doesn't have the account key anymore, and I broke my flow. And that's something we're still, so the join key is now empty. I have to pick a new join key here, for example, join on account name, even though it doesn't make sense. It's not going to produce correct results. So you get where it's not a trivial thing if you make a change upstream that has impact downstream, but you can see if it's non-breaking, you will be able to do that very easily. If you do a breaking change, we will tell you, we'll improve that's something the validation is we're really focusing on. We'll make sure that we give you the validation right here in the feedback in the UI to tell you what the things you need to do now to fix your flow again. If you've gotten yourself, into a situation where you kind of broke your downstream stuff.
Thanks. Then there's a question around the transform. If you have compute expressions and compute relatives in one node, will it be even more time consuming when it processes?
Yes, so more stuff will take more time. However, again, this is where the new data platform comes in. We are running this on a brand new infrastructure that is behind the scenes. It is a open source, massively parallel cluster system based on the open source technology called Spark that takes your data and it partitions it out into multiple sets, and it fans out to multiple machines at the same time. So when you have a long-running data flow that used to run on a single instance, now you can use a whole Salesforce data center to process your data. And obviously there's some, in a multi-tenant environment, we always need to make sure that we protect our service and that we have all of these mechanisms in place. But the amazing aspect is both on the data processing as well on the query side, you get this vast infrastructure by renting our service, and so I do, even if an operation is expensive, due to the parallelization that is baked into this platform, I expect the runtime, especially for large data volumes, to go down.
I think that kind of goes in line with the next question as well. I don't know if you have a few more comments, but it's asking whether or not the data flows will run faster. And I guess the answer is yes with what you just said, but I don't know if you have a few more comments you want to put on that.
Yeah, we do expect faster runtimes, especially for large flows. So meaning complex flows and high volume flows. So we'll see the biggest yields there. Currently, we're still working on some performance improvements, especially for small volumes when your data flow used to run for only 4 or 5 minutes. Currently, we see a slight regression in data flow in performance there, where the flow could run for 7 minutes, for example. So percentage-wise, that's a big increase. But realistically, I'm thinking it's a trade-off worth doing, because if you had a 10-hour data flow, we've seen the same flow on our new data platform, run up to 40% faster, 50% faster. Obviously, this is all subject, to the individual details of your flow. I don't want to, give out a guarantee on this, but that's just a statement. Overall, on average, you will see a decrease in runtime.
So there's a few comments around this looking like other, like lightning flows, for instance. And there's a question whether or not if this is the flow engine underneath the hood.
Yeah, we obviously, not sure, maybe also Richa can chime in. We have been taking some hints from the Lightning Flow designer and Flow engine in terms of user experience, in terms of the UI components that we're using as well. And in fact, there's a long-term product roadmap item that I would love to do at some point, is to also integrate with Lightning Flows. So from an orchestration perspective, so that you can tie your data prep recipes into a overall Salesforce business process automation flow as well. So you can kick off things when a flow competes, for example.
Great. There's also a question on multi-value joins, if they're going to be available.
Yeah, so that's something we're, again, Safe Harbor, working on the winter release for. So currently, when you use a lookup operation, it is not offering the lookup multi-value right now, but that's something that we're working on for the winter release. Once this goes GA, we will also provide that data flow functionality of creating multi-value fields for multiple matches. If I have multiple account IDs, and this is not a good example, if I would have reversed it and took account grain and an opportunity on there, we would have multiple opportunities matching a single account, and we could create a multi-value field. So that's something we're working on for the winter release. And I think we have about 15 minutes left. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I do have a slide for roadmap as well. I see one question also on the roadmap. I have a dedicated slide for that. Should we jump back to slides for a minute and then see if we
have one more question before, because I know there's a few things around roadmap. I think there's a few things around migration and like rollout. So I was just kind of what's it called, parking those. But there was one in regard to the demo. With the join options, if you can still see the estimations of the output of number of rows, it was a little bit hard to see in your demo whether or not you still had that.
That is true, and that's something we need to put back in. We used to have the kind of a heads-up projection of the possibility of a Cartesian product with joins. Yes, so the plan is to put that back in, but I would need to actually, I can't put I'm not sure if this is something we're targeting for the winter release. I need to check and follow up.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, and maybe that's a good one for the community as well to follow up on.
Great, we will note that down. I think let's just go on with the slides and we'll take the rest of the questions regarding migration and rollout and stuff afterwards.
Okay. Great. So in this, back to Richa, back to your slide, Richa, where you kind of covered on some of the topics we wanted to circle in on the demo. What do you think? Have you addressed all of them?
Yes.
Or some of them?
Yes, I do think we have. I was confused about versioning, but I was monitoring the chat as well. And Ricky told me that we did. And I just wanted, to wrap up the demo, we just want to show you really quickly 3 features that we weren't able to show you in the live demo. So really quickly, Tim, next slide. With coming soon, you will be, along with whatever Tim showed you, you will also be able to track the lineage of your data set and even the fields within your data set using the data catalog service and API. Next slide. And even if we take a further step back, we will be able, one of the pieces is how do you manage so many data flows and recipes? And we have heard there's a growing pain point around how can we monitor if there's one place to monitor and I don't have to do all those cryptic calculations of how many data flows do I have, what's my limit, am I reaching my limit, and kind of manually monitoring this. So coming up soon is a brand new monitor page that will be a one-stop shop for you to see all your flows and also allow you to schedule things as well. Yes, thank you, Jen. And 10.
Great. Yeah, so another exciting thing, again, of the new data platform enhancement that we're doing is the ability to scale per data set. So we allow now for 10 million rows in each org with Einstein Analytics Plus licenses. And soon, this is on the roadmap, we plan to also allow you to load 10 billion rows into a single data set. And guess what? The query performance is going to be the same as with a data set with 50 million rows. I mean, it's almost like magic, right? That you can scale up this way, and this is due to our partition queries and distributed systems that we can make this performance happen. We've also shown a demo where we take the same 10 billion row data set and we put Tableau on top. So imagine if you could use the Tableau desktop experience on Einstein Analytics data sets. And the magic sauce here, the key ingredient is the SQL syntax that Einstein Analytics is going out with. So we are currently working on allowing you to not just produce SQL to query our data sets, but to also speak SQL. And we're hoping that this will help with our integration with Tableau. And this will also make it easier for analysts who are coming into our ecosystem who are only familiar with SQL and are not necessarily familiar with SQL. So this is really exciting, and it's been very well received so far, by Tableau users as well, who now get the full scale of Einstein Analytics under the covers while using Tableau.
Yeah, and with that, we wrap up kind of all the demos and features that we wanted to show you. And what this new data platform is all about, it's not just about data flows and recipes, it's just so much more. And themes is we want to make sure that it helps, that it does in fact become better, simpler, easier to use, is smart, is scalable with billions of rows, and helps you collaborate.
Fantastic. And then just real quick, there were a couple of questions on the rollout plan. This is kind of a high level of where we're at. So currently we're in the summer release. This dot here where we're hitting sandboxes soon, and data prep will be in beta, meaning that every Salesforce administrator will see a setting in analytics settings to enable this beta. And it's pretty safe to enable it because we will live side by side with your existing recipes. So you can still continue to open your recipes in the old editor, and then you choose to create new recipes either in the old editor or in this beta version, so that's up to you. You can also upconvert existing recipes. You can bring a recipe from the existing legacy data prep editor into the new world, and during the beta period, we're making a copy of that recipe. But then come the winter release, we're doing a lot of behind the scenes testing right now and validation to make sure that the process is smooth, the rollout happens without any issues for you as a customer. So we are starting a process that we call dark launching, which will take existing recipes that are out there in the wild, we'll make a copy of those behind the scenes on a dedicated server, and we're doing all of the work to upconvert this into the new definition, and then we're running this, and then we're comparing results, making sure that everything is completely identical and that we have the confidence to go GA with the winter release. So obviously this is again a forward-looking statement, but so far we're well on track to accomplish this GA with the October rollout of the winter release this year. And a very exciting step. So this means all of the recipes will open up in this new experience. And then looking into the next year, we are starting to also allow you to pick some data flows and open them up in this new data prep experience. So this obviously requires us to have functional parity of all of the things that you could do in data flows also in this new data prep editor. So we're working hard on that functional parity. And eventually, we are opening data flows in this new experience as well. So we'll give you the choice, and we'll make sure that it's a smooth transition for you, that it's safe, that it doesn't disrupt your operations. But we're excited to give you this, enhanced functionality. Hopefully it's easier to use and faster development time due to the sampling that we're doing, the interaction that you're getting, and at the same time a powerful tool that you get the same power you used to have in data flows also in this editor. And this is a bit of a breakdown of, for data flow nerds, like me, we have case statements and compute relative that we're currently working on. So we're tackling each of these segments piece by piece. And by the way, data flows came with a predictions node for Einstein Discovery. We're currently also working on that for winter, so that's a sneak peek for you for the winter release as well, where you will hopefully see an Einstein Discovery node that will allow you to score your data inside a recipe. So also lots of exciting work where other teams are now coming in, the connectors team building outputs. We have the Einstein Discovery team building predictions nodes. So we also have the templates team making sure that you can create new templates using this new experience as well. So there's a lot of things going on in parallel right now, and we're super excited to share this with you. So I can see we have 4 minutes left. 4 minutes for questions. Thank you so much for your time and attention so far.
Thank you, Tim and Richa, for all of this. There's a few more questions. I think I'll let the people kind of chime in and whether or not they have all their migration questions answered. I feel like you did cover that, that we're trying to have like a smooth transition. There's also a question about the largest amount of rows that you can have. I know you mentioned in the future with 10 billion for a data set. I don't know if you want to put a few more words on that.
Yeah, so current with Einstein Analytics Plus, out of the box, 10 billion rows for each org. We still have a SKU for more rows. So if you need more than 10 billion, you can purchase them. And for processing this in a recipe, there's no upper limit. Obviously, it will take a decent while to process billions of rows. There's no doubt about that. But we're long-term on the roadmap. We're also starting to look into incremental processing so that you don't always have to reprocess the whole billions of rows, but only the change records, only the delta records. But that's on the longer-term product roadmap. It's not something that we're currently working on, but we're definitely thinking about also with all of these changes that are going on with data sync, with our incremental processing on data sync. But yeah, I think no upper limit for data prep. The current data set limit sits at 2 billion, and then this 10 billion was a roadmap preview that we're planning to increase the per data set row limit from 2 billion to 10 billion in the future.
Great, exciting. There is also a question around Tableau and Einstein Analytics, if it can be published in the Salesforce community for the clients.
This demo is it's currently an internal demo, but would love to loop in Antonio Scaramuzzino and his query team to connect with you and the customer. So that's definitely something that our product team can have a conversation with the customers on this topic. It's not something that we've made available to customers at this point.
Okay, and there's also a question around if Trailhead will be including the new data prep. There will be any.
Sorry, one more time.
There was also a question whether or not there will be any modules or updates on Trailhead around the new data prep.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. So with the beta will come with its beta documentation. For Trailhead, we are also updating our content there, but this is more geared towards the GA rollout. During the beta, you have to rely on the beta documentation that the content team is putting out there on the help page. And we also are working on some videos so to prepare our data prep users for this change, especially for the winter release rollout. When recipes will open up in this new experience, we are making sure that we have the content like videos available to prepare our users for this change.
That was all of the questions, which was right on time.